right, Carter, Andy, Christine, thank you guys. I appreciate it. And dude, thank you, man. I mean, I was so impressed yesterday when we did what we did because I know that's not easy. We've talked to a lot of people so far that have been through traumatic and like situations on the water like you, and I really admire every time that you guys are doing this to kind of spread awareness and help prevent it from happening to others.
Yep.
And like I said, I really admire that. I know it's not easy, and you handled it really well yesterday, man.
Thanks.
So, but yeah, let's circle back and kind of let everybody know what happened that day, and then where we are today and what we did yesterday. I'd like to try to break it down so everybody understands your whole story.
Okay. Yeah, I can start off. A little bit of backstory is that Andy and I worked at Loggerhead Marine Life Center together for about 3 years before this accident happened. We kind of bonded over our interest in fishing and diving, and we'd go out after work or on our days off snorkeling quite a bit. And the Breakers Reef was probably our top spot that we liked. And fast forward to the week of Thanksgiving of 2019, I went out basically every day that week with Andy. And Thanksgiving Day, we went out for kind of the last time because we were working on Black Friday. And the day was absolutely perfect. It was completely flat. Water was like a swimming pool, super clear. Sky was perfectly blue. We saw
All
everything.
you could ask for.
Yeah, we saw sharks, sea turtles, octopus, you name it, everything. We were out there for about 3 hours and decided to swim in for the day. And kind of right then, I started swimming in towards the beach, and I heard this really loud sound of a boat. And if you're a diver, you kind of know what a boat sounds in the water.
It sounds like, you look up, you're like, okay, wow, that boat's far away. You don't realize it, and then it can happen quick though.
Yeah, and sound travels, I think, 5 times further underwater than it does in the air. So you kind of look up, and the boat's a couple hundred feet away. You're like, oh, that's not bad. But this sound was extremely loud.
Yeah.
And I looked to my right, which is to the north of me, and I saw this massive hole of a boat heading straight towards me. And just like that, I was in a life or death situation. I knew, obviously, I had to get out of the way of this boat, but it was just going too fast. I was swimming as fast as I could, and I couldn't get out of its way. So in the last second kind of effort, I turned my body so my limbs were facing more towards the boat. So my head and my back wouldn't get impacted by the boat, or at least hopefully wouldn't.
Yeah.
And just then the boat hit me, and the impact was extremely swift. It happened so fast, I barely remember it, but then kind of kicked into reality once it ended. And first thing I noticed was that my right arm was completely gone. I saw the bone.
That's the first thing you noticed?
Yeah, I saw, my bone out, all the tissue around it. And I managed to catch a quick glimpse of the rest of my right arm sinking down onto the reef, which is something I'll never get out of my head. I can't imagine. Yeah, that kind of visual is just absolutely shocking. And then I kind of noticed that I couldn't swim, and for some reason my legs weren't working. So I looked down and saw that both my legs had been severely cut open by the propellers. My left leg kind of right between.
Yeah, do you mind looking at, I see the stars?
Let's check these out.
I saw them yesterday, and I didn't want to bring them up yesterday. So how bad was, I obviously know the damage here, but what happened here? I mean, were they worried about you able to walk ever again, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's a miracle the surgeons were able to heal my legs. They were about to amputate them.
Wow.
But they're like, this guy's young, he looks healthy, there's a good chance he could heal from this.
Yeah.
So they're kind of giving me the benefit of the doubt. And so the propeller hit right through here. They actually put cement kind of right here in my leg to replace some of the bone that was lost.
Okay.
And my right leg was probably the worst one. I got hit right through my kneecap here. And I didn't really see it, but what I've heard from
we got a pretty good full frontal view, and kind of it basically was the right kneecap was completely shattered, like almost looked like like you take a pinball and shoot it through it. It's kind of what it, like a broken glass kind of look.
A lot of people don't understand like how powerful the propeller is, even if you're not going wide open. Like, I mean, you could be sitting there cruising 2-3 knots and you stick your hand there, it's gonna do exactly that.
Right. Yeah.
It will cut you through you like butter.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary to see. A lot of people don't really take that into account when they're boating. And
I wasn't with you guys, but the other day we were there was a guy just swimming down on they put the swim ladder out, and he was taking a piss. You can obviously tell. And we were just like, but you don't realize, dude, you slip right there, your foot is going right into that prop.
Yeah, and it's gone.
And they're going at idle speed, not fast, but still, they don't understand how sharp. And you said it perfectly. Like everybody I've talked to so far that's been through, a situation like you or something traumatic on the water, it happens fast when they least expect it. And that's number one. They say, I never thought it could happen. It happens fast. And I mean,
and I've always used a diver's down flag when I was out there, so I had peace of mind that boats could see me. I've hundreds of boats have passed me while I was diving, and I've become so used to it and kind of trust them to always see my dive flag. And this day, it came out of nowhere and didn't see me. So that it kind of ruined my trust in divers down devices for the two-dimensional flag, as well as how boaters paying attention to divers down.
Well, that's something I want to bring up later on about the new update plan you have going on with this. But back to where you were. So you can't swim. You lost your arm. You can't swim. And you two, you're heroes. Let's just start right there.
Real heroes.
Save this man's life.
Yeah.
Let's go to who was there first? Because I don't really know the full details.
Yeah. So I was probably, I'd say 25 feet or so away from Carter as his dive buddy when we were out there. So I would have been to the east of him and the boat. By the time because I obviously heard it as well, because it was pretty close to me too. By the time I had lifted my head up, it was pretty much parallel to me. So it was probably right at close to impact when it hit Carter. If it would have been, me, I probably wouldn't have been able to react like Carter was able to. But so after the boat passed, I was getting ready to say to Carter, holy shit, that was close. You know what I mean? Like I was getting ready, like I was waiting to see him. Damn, that was a close. What the heck's going on here? But Carter was obviously, what I saw was him kind of bobbing, really, because he couldn't kick with his legs being that damaged. His arm was gone, and obviously I didn't know any of this at the time.
Did you see blood?
I did. Once I got closer, so he was screaming. I could tell something happened. So I just remember swimming as fast as I could to him, and swimming through the wake of the boat and getting to him. And as I got closer, you could see the blood. I saw his arm, which was cut pretty much right at the elbow. And like you said, you see the bone, the tissue. It was pretty gnarly. Like I said, the best way I can describe it is gnarly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't prepare like mentally for that kind of stuff. You either just kind of react, which is luckily what we did, or freeze. I think it's like fight or flight.
And I've noticed a lot of people I've talked to so far is react.
Yeah.
Like I mean, and sometimes I guess it depends on the person, but a majority of them I've talked to so far, it's like we had no other option.
Yeah,
you just
that's
react.
The thing. Like, what are you gonna do? Yeah, like so. By the time I got to Carter, the first obvious threat was him drowning. He couldn't stay up. So luckily I was able to kind of get my hand under each of his armpits and just get him up so he could have air. And at that point, it's just shock. It's adrenaline boost. It's, and Carter screaming the whole time.
And you're still far off the beach.
Yeah, we're probably a couple hundred yards off the beach, and like I said, we were heading in. And so I see his arm and I'm just like, I'm holding him up, because that's the first thing to make sure he's getting oxygen and breathing. And then shortly after, Christine was on a paddle, she had her paddleboard. She was diving with a different group. So we didn't even know Christine.
You didn't even know each other.
Yeah. No. We didn't know Christine at all.
No.
So by the time, and I don't know how quickly, I mean, the timing and all of this stuff, like you kind of lose the sense of time when all of this is going
Oh,
on.
100%. Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
there's certain, like, when we were out there yesterday, when we were looking at the beach and like trying to figure out where we were, that's all like, it's like blacked out to me from the accident. Like I remember seeing the ambulance, but I couldn't tell you the location. I just remember seeing the flashing lights, you know.
So you're holding them up, obviously. I mean, what else can you do at that
Right,
point? You
yeah.
can't really. So, and you came in, you had your paddleboard, but before you got there, what was going on with the boat? Did the captain, did they stop and try to assist, or?
Afterwards.
Yeah, so I think by the time, like I didn't know, but by the time we could see the boat slow down and then eventually was turning back
Yeah.
around.
I was already there.
But she was, yeah,
Mhm.
Christine was already there.
The boat actually passed my group pretty
Okay.
close just before impacting.
Oh,
her.
okay. You're on the.
So I was slightly north
Mhm.
with my group. I was in the water with 2 other divers, Justin and Leanne. We went out earlier that morning. I had my paddleboard because I had my dive gear on top, and we were just doing free diving, and I did a bit of diving. But at that time, gear was up. We were all in the water, had the dive flag up, and the boat just came roaring past us. And we're 2 hands out of the water. We're all trying to wave the boat, like, hey. And they ripped past us. And I get up onto the paddleboard just because I knew there were other divers in the water. And so I
Mhm.
stood up and I knew there had been an impact. So I just yelled to my group, like, they hit somebody. And Justin swam in with Leanne just to, get out of the way. She's not as strong of a swimmer. So they just wanted to get to a safe place. And I went over and Andy was in the water holding Carter up in a massive pool of blood.
Jeez.
And I didn't know exactly what had happened yet, but I got in because I was just going to, help hold him and maybe try to get him up onto the paddleboard or something. But as soon as I got in, I saw Andy had lifted his damaged limb, and I just didn't hesitate. I just grabbed it and held it as tight as I could, and I was communicating with Andy, like, hey, like, and we need to tie this up. And I'm thinking, like, okay, I have my bungee cord on my paddleboard, and then we can put him up there and then get him back to shore. And then I noticed the boat is coming.
Yeah, and at one point, yeah, I think you went back to the paddleboard because I remember holding the arm too to stop the. Well, obviously, we didn't have a tourniquet in the water with us.
But no, you did the right thing. I mean, that was like, okay, first get them above water, and second, you got to stop that bleed.
Yep, exactly. And that's,
your reaction is incredible because, I mean, you've never experienced anything like this, and you did exactly what you were supposed to do. And so you got that. You're trying to stop the bleed. You see the ambulance, right? And
yeah. So before that, we see like while we're doing this, stopping it, and Christine's going back. The boat, we seen it coming back, and then it ended up where they obviously seen something was happening, and the actual tow rope that Carter had for his dive flag was actually, we didn't know it at the time, but it was still stuck in the prop of the boat. So they were backing up towards us while we're doing our thing and, trying to keep his limb from bleeding, keep him above water. So as they're backing up, this is going on. And then the plan was to load him into the back of the boat, and
that's what I thought would happen.
Yeah. So meanwhile, I mean, I'm yelling, call 911, and luckily some beachgoers heard us, as well as I think the drivers of the boat called 911. So that was another critical piece because they were there to meet us right at the beach. But so I think Christine hopped into the boat first, and I stayed in the water with Carter. And then
this boat had a pretty wide transom.
Yeah, it
between
was
the outboard motors.
So okay, like a bracket maybe to get him on.
Kind of, yeah. So I got up on the boat and went underneath the shoulders and lifted him back and laid him down, and then
that was the first time that I saw his legs because I had no clue his legs were. So I'm in the water, Christine's up there, and as we're lifting him up, his legs come directly in view with me, and that's when I saw the right knee first, which was, like I said, it looked like you take a broken glass, like you throw, it was just shattered, like it was crazy. And then the same on his left shin, left calf, you could see the bone, cut. You could see, the
And
tissue in there, and
well, none of us knew at the time. I couldn't even feel it at the time, but my left wrist was very badly broken.
Okay.
yeah, he had a
it was-
glove on, so you
Yeah, I
couldn't
had
see
a
it.
glove
but-
on, and there was obviously so much trauma around my body that I couldn't even feel what was going on.
Yeah. I was thinking, what was going through your mind when the boat came up? Or you probably can't even.
There's sheer panic. This isn't happening. This is some kind of nightmare. Then reality sets in, and you're like, okay, I'm facing my death right now. Like, this is how I'm
That's
going
what
to die.
and that's was his screams, man. I'm done. It's over. It's over. Those are the ones.
You
I
were the
did
only
that
one
were-
right next to him at the time, right in the water.
Yeah, but yeah, I stayed in the water, but I mean, the whole thing. I mean, it's just sheer screams. Like it's not. Like
How did that make you feel? Like,
I mean, again, it's like I obviously knew the gravity of the situation, and I think it took me to a spot of reacting and what can I do? Like we got to save him. Like I'm not just gonna let my friend die in my arms because this is what it was feeling like.
No,
And that thought stuck for a little while because even after the accident, he was in the hospital. He was in a coma for a while. They didn't know about if he was going to have brain damage and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of reacting and like doing, step by step. And it's, again, like, there's any kind of safety training, boat safety training, diving safety. It's important, luckily we were doing the right stuff. I had some safety training, not as advanced as now after this kind of event. It's kind of heightened my alertness to things like that as far as boating and diving. But yeah, I'd say I was in a state of panic and just super alertness and like, just doing whatever it took,
No, I'd like to illustrate the extreme dichotomy of this situation as well, because I call this place my happy place.
Yeah, that's the safe place. That's what I looked at. That's where I go to. You go in the
relax.
You got no TV, nobody's calling you. The fish don't care about your emails. Kind of thing.
Put it all away and go.
Yeah, and that's we go after work all the time, and just that's the safe place.
That's how I feel when I'm in the water, man. It's the same thing.
Decompression. Yeah. And to go to that in a matter of 5 seconds, to go to absolute violence or blood everywhere is something I still have a hard time processing. How things can change from so peaceful to so violent and horrible.
Right.
Yeah. And just so everybody that's listening knows, like, we're not, and you say this all the time, we're not trying to scare people away from the water at all.
No.
Like, that's the last thing you're trying to do.
Yep.
I think it's more or less like, just keep in the back of your mind that these things can happen fast and educate yourself. I think that's the key. Like, education. If you're going to be a boat owner and be the one behind the wheel, it doesn't hurt to have all these skills like CPR, how to use a tourniquet, all those kind of things. So that's one thing I think was awesome, that you're not trying to scare people, right?
No.
That's the last. Yeah, I mean,
And as you'll see later, that's the last thing we're trying to do.
But let's go back though to, I mean, so you're on the boat now, and were you able to get him on the boat?
Yeah. I think I've got strong legs.
I mean, she was pulling, I was pushing, and
That's adrenaline power. Just
it was too, because I remember like I'm sitting there and he's like, he's going up, but I know I'm not pushing him all the way, but I felt like I was giving everything I got to get him up.
But we got him up, laid him down onto the back of the boat, could really see the extent of the injuries. I quite flayed open, and they did have a first aid kit on the boat, and the boat operators pulled that open. They didn't have a tourniquet, but they had this like fabric kind of, not gauze, but like a fabric
so you can push up onto it.
Honestly, I just wrapped, like pulled tight and then knotted it, and then did that what I could around the legs. And meanwhile, he's in agony, saying it's over, and I'm just trying to tell him what I'm doing. Like, I don't feel like I can say it's okay. Like, it's gonna be okay. But
you guys, I feel like, did a really good job trying to maybe keep the comfort.
and something.
Well, after I mean, we're getting him on the boat. Then they pull me onto the boat to, you know, get in. And I think at some point, I don't know if we had taken off, but we see the ambulance lights on shore. So obviously that's where we're heading straight into. And then as they're doing their thing, Carter's obviously screaming in agony. And just, I mean, he thought he was dying. Like, it's hard to...
There's no way to describe facing death in that violent of a fashion. There's no way to put that into words of what's going through your head.
Right. Like, even seeing it, it's...
Experiencing the changes to your body in such a quick fashion, it's the definition of horror.
Oh, I just can't imagine, dude.
So as we were heading in, Carter screaming in agony and just pain and panic and going crazy. And whatever came over me, I can't, you know, it's a God thing, a spiritual thing, however you want to look at it, right? But it came to me like to comfort Carter and just, you know, in whatever way I could, right? So I remember sitting down by him and grabbing his left hand, which he had a glove on. I had no clue it had gotten hit with a prop. I don't think any of us knew. And he's still screaming still. And I'm like, I didn't know, you know, but anyways, I grabbed his left hand and I just said to him, I said, Carter, you know, God is here. God is with us, you know? And kind of in that moment, I'll never forget it. It was probably the most profound and moment that I saw was just the look in Carter's eyes. He stopped screaming. He calmed down a little bit, awful bit. He quit screaming at all and just kind of like, I just remember seeing his eyes just looking up in the sky, and I could see it in his eyes, the impact that those words made, and just the sense of just peace, I guess, is what I saw. Just a calmness.
And
it was,
I'm gonna make it. You know?
It was the craziest thing I had seen. It was, I mean, and Carter can speak on that moment too.
It was the most profound moment of my life, because I was in a state of, I'm dead. And I've been a Christian for pretty much my whole life. And you feel like God isn't there a lot in your life. And
especially in that moment.
Especially
like,
in that moment, you feel like all hope is lost. And then that simple reminder from Andy, right after he said that, I just remember looking up into the blue sky above me, and all I felt was peace, magnificent peace that was beyond all understanding. And I realized God is still in control of this, that I'm meant to survive this, and that I need to keep pushing towards survival, because God is with us, God is here, and this is all part of his plan. And that's kind of when it kicked into gear in my head that it's a horrible situation, but at the end of the day, there's nothing to be afraid of because God is in control. So that moment really was just an absolute game changer.
Dude, I got chills. Yeah, that's insane that I don't know, you said you're not really a spiritual guy.
Before, like I said, I was spiritual, but never religious, right? Like, I believed in God, but never like, and me and Carter never discussed that part. Like, as we were 3 years, we would just fish and hang out, and there was never, I knew he went to church on Sundays, but we never discussed, like, amongst us as like talking about religion or spirituality. We just went out and fished. We were friends, you know?
Yeah.
Never was a topic, but just the power of that, that whole thing, I mean, it's helped me broaden, you know, a trust in God, a belief that there's a higher power that...
You can't, the fact that you did that, I mean, that's the number one thing I know a lot of traumatic, you know, first responders say, like, comfort the patient.
Right.
Like
I said, that's a power working with me through me, right? That's God working through me in that moment. I can't take full credit for that. You know, it just came to me, and it was an important
absolutely
for Carter, but for me as well. Like, I mean, it gave me like hope. Like, it's just, if you really think about it in that situation and finding peace in that situation, it's just almost like unbelievable, right? Like how, you know?
Your words were really a turning point in Carter's behavior too. Like it calmed him down. It reminded him to hope, to survive. I'm sure it reduced his heart rate.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was thinking
That,
too the
and
whole
that's the
time.
physical
Yeah.
side. Like, it's crazy how, and I always like get emotional thinking about that moment because of the impact.
So
Yeah.
that's nuts. And all right, so well, I think you guys maybe told me yesterday, but this all happened pretty quickly. Like, I mean, how
Yeah.
long did it take you guys to finally get him on land?
Afterwards, we found out that there was like a really fuzzy camera that had the view of the scene, like coming off Breakers.
Right.
And one
Oh,
of those
really?
hotels
Yeah.
there. Yeah. It couldn't really see details, but they had the time from the point of impact to getting up to the ambulance at 8 minutes, which I don't know, kind of long, but
No,
for how
no,
far
not
we
at all.
were
Hundreds of
offshore.
yards.
Yeah, we were
What
a couple hundred
And
yards.
That's insane.
Yeah, the movement.
Any
to getting
longer?
him up
I mean, how much
there.
blood did you lose?
I lost about half my blood by the time I got to the ambulance.
Yeah.
I mean,
was a
you
lot.
don't have much time after that.
No.
And
Right.
I would have bled out on scene if Christine wasn't able to tie tourniquets tight enough, or if there was just a few seconds of myself in the water bleeding out. But
And you were
everything-
still conscious when they
Yep.
took you into the ambulance.
So-
St. Mary's is just around the corner, so they were able to get there quickly, and they were able to get a phone number from you even to receive.
I was in the ambulance. I was screaming my dad's cell phone number. They live in Denver, Colorado. That's where I grew up, and they were just having a regular Thanksgiving day.
I forgot it's
And-
Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
Thanksgiving.
The kicker.
Yeah.
I ate
And,
Thanksgiving dinner at the hospital that
so-
night.
So I yelled his cell phone number, and they immediately contacted him. So my family found out kind of right away after it happened, and they got me to the hospital, and the surgeon was kind of looking down over me. They're wheeling me into the operating room, and they're like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Carter Viss." Like, clearly I was 100% intact at that point. And I vividly remember getting wheeled into the operating room with a sense of hope, like, oh, they'll just bandage me up. I'll be home for dinner. There was just, it was like an insane thought, but at the same time, it's like, that's really, really what I wanted to do.
You're like me. I was doing the same thing.
That's what
Yeah,
I
I
really,
had to get
really
surgery,
wanted to
and I had brain surgery. Long story short, yeah, I was trying to get out of there like that next day. They're like,
Yeah.
no.
Well, how many days were you were in there for?
So
7 to 60.
I was in there for about 2.5 months.
Oh,
wow.
So, and kind of that moment right before they put me down was a real sobering moment, because it's like, will I ever wake up? Will I wake up with any limbs? How is life going to be once I wake, and if I wake up from this?
Yeah.
And that was a big thing too, because he was in the coma for like a week, right? I think it was an induced coma, and his parents got to Florida. They took a red-eye flight Thanksgiving night and got in, and they got in early the next morning, and obviously Carter was in coma. And I was at the hospital the next morning because I wanted to talk to them and tell them I was there,
Yeah,
tell them
yeah.
what happened. But I just remember them coming in, and I vaguely remembered seeing them at Loggerhead where we worked. So I recognized them when they came in, and I didn't say anything when they came in, and they came into the room. And I remember they went into the room, and no more than a couple minutes they come out, and his mother's breaking down, and they're just both, seeing him in the hospital with, they call them external fixators, and
Jeez.
just,
Yeah.
no arm, and just hooked up with the the breathing machine. And I just remember going to his mom and his dad and telling, I gave him a big hug and told him I was with them. And then we sat down, and I told them the story, you know what I mean? And just so they knew, I wanted to be there when they got there to tell them what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's heavy.
He was in the coma, and I just got done talking to his parents, and, I would visit and see him in there throughout the week when he's in the coma in the ICU. And I was at home about a week after the accident, and I get a call from Carter's dad, Chuck, he says, "Hey, Carter's up. He's asking about you. How you doing?" Ask him. So he was coming too, right? And was asking how, asking about
That was your
me.
first reaction?
Yeah, my
yeah.
first concern was, where's Andy? How's he doing? 'Cause
Yeah.
I was in, it's hard to describe what kind of place I was in.
I can, dude.
In a coma, it's like, all I can describe it as a really bad, like, drug-induced trip.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And in this trip, Andy was in a lot of trouble and something bad was about to happen to him. So when I woke up, my first concern is, where's Andy? How's he doing? Based on what was going on in that kind of dream state, as well as I still remember.
Brain's an incredible thing.
It sure is. Yeah.
When this concern is still, hey, is brain damage, what's up? So his dad calls and said, "Hey, Carter's waking up. He's asking about you." And I'm like, holy, I got to get to the hospital. So I bucktail to the hospital and get there. And I remember going in the hospital room, and he's kind of, you could tell he's still, he's coming to, and he's just, kind of his head is going like that. And I just started talking to him just because, obviously they're concerned about brain damage and all of this. And so prior to the accident, while we were diving, before the boat hit him, we were kind of doing some fish collecting, and I had this little contraption where I take a little jig out and do some fishing with it when you're snorkeling. So midway in this trip, I caught wasn't trying to, but I caught a scorpion fish, which, if you don't know, it's a highly venomous fish, right? So we're out in there, and I'm bringing in the scorpion fish, and Carter has his net with him, and we're like, "Oh, sweet, cool." I was like, "I didn't mean to do this," and we're like, "How are we gonna get this off the hook?" In the middle of the ocean. But we ended up doing it, and we got it off fine. So flash forward to when he's waking up, and I'm talking to him, and I was like, "Carter, you remember that scorpion fish?" And he goes, "Yeah, that was badass." So that meant I'm like, all right, his brain's good. Like, he's there. You know what I mean? It was like, all right. Like, that was he remembers it. He's good. So,
It's incredible.
Yeah, it was just like,
I'm not too familiar with, obviously how much blood you lose can potentially lead to,
right.
But that's incredible, man.
That was my indication that his brain's good. He remembers.
When I look at you, you're incredible. Like, your recovery is incredible. I mean, for the things that I'm picturing in my mind that you guys saw. I mean, you look great, dude.
Thanks.
Yeah, right.
And there's so much more to the recovery story.
That's probably a whole nother.
Actually, so both my parents and myself have been writing a book about it for the last couple of years. And this book is going to be released probably in the last couple months of 2024.
Nice. Remind me when that happens. I'll try to publicize it for you.
Very, very detailed account of the recovery and the accident.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole story is insane. And your reaction time, that's super impressive, man. I can't.
We were really just glad to be there, like we said.
Yeah, we were in the right.
Carter recovered for a reason. He's got his huge mission. He started this foundation, so much more.
Yeah, and now let's move on to that. I mean, because that's a whole nother thing. How long ago was this exactly? 4 years?
4.5 years ago.
4.5 years ago. And you now started the Carter Viss Foundation, correct?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So its mission is primarily to help other victims of boating accidents, as well as promote safe boating and diving.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of what we do so far is market and promote safer divers down devices. And this divers down device is called the 3D buoy. Mm-hmm. It's compared to a normal divers down flag, it's a flag.
Yeah.
So from certain angles, it's going to be about the same profile as like a pencil or a sheet of paper. Mm-hmm. But this flag is completely inflatable, blows up. It's 3-sided, so
it's going to stay afloat. And
it's going to stay straight up and afloat, as well as from any angle a boat's going, no matter how wavy or windy it is.
Yeah, whatever the wind conditions might be.
A boat could still see it.
One thing, I didn't know if I want to get too much into the topic about this, but I have to ask, what was there any kind of charges filed against, how did this end up with the captain and you and at the end of all this?
So
if you feel free to talk about as much whatever you feel comfortable with.
So it's really funny. So the court trial was, well, the court date, kind of the hearing was set for the week of Thanksgiving in 2020. So it is exactly a year since the accident. And what I really wanted to come out of this was not some type of vengeance towards the driver. I knew that wasn't in my heart, and I knew that wasn't going to be the right way to come about this and make good out of this accident. So instead, kind of made a plea deal for him to help me advocate for safer divers down devices, as well as just advocate for boating and diving safety.
That's incredible, man, because like the situation's so tough, right? Because when we were there, it's like you can dive there, but nothing's really marked, so it's kind of a sticky situation, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you can't really claim was anybody at fault, or maybe he's probably going way too fast, way too close and short, but at the same time, maybe we should designate some of these locations, especially if it's a popular area to dive, like
Yeah.
create some kind of zone. I don't know. I mean,
There's definitely opportunity there to create like a more well-marked diving area, at least mark those mooring buoys.
especially if people are out there all the time. It sounds like it was a busy day. People are diving.
Yeah.
The fact that on a holiday in an extremely popular dive spot, a boat can go, it was going about 45 miles an hour
That's
when
fast.
it hit me.
That's boogieing.
And that's legal. You know,
Yeah.
a boat can do that through a dive area like that, which is extremely dangerous.
And close to the beach.
Very close to the beach, about 600 feet
Yeah.
from the beach.
I mean, but I think where we need to move forward, and which I think you're working on, is like, let's this is so easily preventable.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think so. We need to just space it out. I know down in the Keys they have specific dive areas where boats are not allowed near, but I don't know. I think you're on the right path. There's a lot of work to be done.
Absolutely. A lot of work to be done. And I have no intention of ever slowing down, and just going to keep working towards my goals.
And the fact that, like, I mean, I don't know, man. It's awesome that you're the way you handled it. I mean, especially with like my reaction. I'm sure you were at one point where like, man, like this guy is totally at fault, but I mean, doesn't seem like wasn't your reaction.
There's moments I was angry about the situation itself, more so like, how is this my fate? How did this become my fate? But at the same time, I was like, well, I love the ocean. I love marine life, and boating incidents, as I learned from working at Loggerhead Marine Life Center, a sea turtle hospital, affects marine life just as much as it affects human life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was put in a position, well, now I can make a bigger difference now than I ever could have before this accident.
Absolutely.
Because I have this story to tell, this experience to share, make a difference.
One thing too, Carter's reaction, because I was angry at the boat driver. I mean, I blamed, after it and had certain resentments, but Carter, how he handled it helped, how just the gracefulness, how he handled it, and the forgiveness, right? Like, how could I be like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, I love the 3D like dive flag idea, and I think we're gonna try to help you. We're gonna
Absolutely.
put something together good, because I'm a big diver, man. I do it all the time, and yesterday was absolutely incredible. And I really appreciate you letting me come and join that experience, because I mean,
Absolutely.
so let's tell everybody, 4 years.
4.5 years ago, basically exactly, because it's, basically exactly 4.5 years since Thanksgiving of 2019, I have not returned to the Breakers Reef.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of avoided it for a while, and
Rightfully so. I understand.
yeah.
and even just diving in the ocean, there was just a stigma around it that I really didn't feel comfortable getting back to that. But time has passed, and I've realized I really want to get back to the breakers now.
Well, I emailed you and I was like, dude, I really want to do a podcast with you. And you're like, well, I think I'm ready to go back. Like, let's, it's time,
Yeah.
And wow, what an incredible day yesterday, right? Like,
Crystal clear.
I've crystal clear, flat, calm. I mean, I got here from North Carolina, and like, you can't predict the weather. So I'm like, please be nice. And dude,
It was perfect.
Yeah,
right?
It was great.
Perfect.
Left us with a great experience. We had the sea turtle come visit us.
Yeah,
We had
nice grouper.
Porcupine fish. What else? Great day to
and
go
Queen
back.
Angel fish, all the
all
stuff.
kinds.
I
It is
love.
badass that you did that yesterday, man, because it is not easy. Like, I mean, how'd you feel?
So we got there, and there's the anticipation's usually the worst part about anything. And I was anticipating a very strong emotional reaction when I got there. Then when we got there, the ocean was so clear and calm. Like, I just want to jump in. I miss this.
Yeah.
I miss this so much. I just want to get back in there and enjoy the reef again.
Yeah, I noticed that too. Like you had like the biggest smile on your face. I think you were the first one in the water too.
I was ready to go.
And like,
For
you
sure.
felt pretty good the whole time?
I did. I felt like it was a long, awaited return home. And I just want to get out there again.
It needed to be done.
Yeah, it needed to be done. And now this summer months are coming up, good diving
Yeah.
time. So I want to get out there more and more.
Perfect timing for it too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was the first time I had been back out diving in the
Really?
ocean too. Yeah. And it, like Carter said, I just wanted to jump in. I was back home pretty much, in the water. But yeah, perfect National Safe Boating Week. I mean,
It was perfect.
Yeah.
like the
National-
timing of it.
It was,
it
it was
was-
meant to be.
Yeah.
And I met you at the Boating Safety Summit, and that was
Yep.
that when I heard your story, I was like, man, we need to hear this. I want to spread this kind of stuff out to the public quicker and easier, and just kind of like your mission to help people understand it can happen fast, man, and it can happen to anybody. I don't care what the experience you have,
Yep.
Dude, I'm stoked to be able to get to knock that out yesterday.
I'm so happy you're here for it. And yeah, I wish I could relive that day.
So-
It's so
Awesome.
fun.
So moving forward, like your ultimate goals, let's count them all down. Like I want to definitely help you with that with the float, like
Yep.
the dive flag.
Yeah, we'll get that going. And then another goal would be to, especially the Breakers Reef area, is to kind of section that off as a no
it's-
navigation or slow navigation zone.
It's more than just that too. That area, diving's blowing up. I mean, it's always been popular, but more and more I know kids, like younger kids, that want to go free diving, they want to go spearfishing.
Right.
I mean, I grew up going spearfishing. I love it, and I've seen kids dive the jetty by us. And if you drift off, there's a lot of fishing going on. But it's one thing, we got to find that balance, right? Like, if you're on a boat diving, obviously a big dive flag is going to help. But maybe like make these like safety zones. Space it out.
And also educate boaters about the risks
Absolutely.
of going close to the beach at a really fast speed. 'cause
Or
the
some of them don't
chances-
even know what a dive flag is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Education for boaters and divers is really key.
I think everybody needs to take some responsibility of being more visible, but then also being aware, having lookouts, and just remember you're not the only person in this ocean. Yeah, it's a big ocean. You can feel like you are sometimes, but there's other people in different places.
Yeah, there's so much growth both in the diving safety and boating, like both ways,
Yeah.
to increase awareness, increase, whatever it may be to make it safer for everyone out there.
Life now is obviously a lot different.
Yep.
What are some of the things that you still try to do to this day that you maybe it's totally different now that you were doing it as you're growing up?
Well, I had a ton of hobbies and interests
Yeah.
before the accident happened. One thing in the hospital that really got me in a bad mental space is thinking about everything I couldn't do with one arm. Thankfully, though, I'm left-hand dominant in my whole life, so I still have this hand, which is good. And one of my hobbies is playing piano. So as you can imagine, as a piano player, losing one hand is detrimental to your skill and to your hobby. So I thought I'd never play piano again, but I got back on the piano. I started playing. It was really discouraging first, but I gave it what I say a lot about my recovery is time and repetition.
Yeah.
Keep doing it over time and you're going to get better and better every time. And now I feel more competent on the piano than before the accident.
It was incredible. So I had to leave the summit early, but I saw the video of you playing Beethoven, right?
Yeah,
And
Moonlight Sonata.
unbelievable. And
Thank you.
so we need to get this video on when we share this of you playing. So we'll get that on this podcast. But no, absolutely incredible, man. And is there
Thank you.
anything else that you?
And well, I was always into art and drawing kind of before the accident, but I never did it on a regular basis. But being not able to walk for so long and sitting around all day, I really got into drawing fish, especially with colored pencils. So this kind of turned into a really long-term hobby for me. And all the products for the Carter Viss Foundation now feature
I saw
my
your
own
shirts.
my own artwork on them, and I'm a huge into art.
Are they
Love
on
it.
your website?
They are. They're all for sale on the website.
What's your website?
It's CarterVissFoundation.org.
Okay. Yeah, for all that listen, go on there and check out his artwork and everything he's got going on. Incredible. And he's doing it all with one arm, one hand. It's impressive, dude.
And ran my first half marathon ever
No way.
last year, and I feel more competent swimming in the water than I did before the
And you got a
accident.
little baby girl coming up.
And I got a little baby girl on the way, and my beautiful wife is here today too.
Bless
So
man.
it's life couldn't have turned out better.
Yep.
And that's God working through tragedy to make beauty out of it.
You got a long life ahead of you, man. That's
Thanks.
awesome. Big shout out today, guys, to local surf shop and Jupiter Beach for letting us sit here. I mean, this is an amazing surf shop. Couldn't have been a better location.
Yeah.
We did not want to do it in a hotel room, so this is awesome. So shout out to you guys. Really appreciate it. Check them out.
We love locals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For all that's listening, please check out the CarterVissFoundation.org. He's doing amazing things to kind of not only help the diving community, but the boating community too. So please check it out. If you have a chance, donate. It's a great cause, and you've been focusing
And
so much on it.
I can promise to anyone that we are just getting started.
Yeah.
That there's going to be so much good to come out of this, and
I'm
it's just
just-
the beginning.
And I'm just getting started with you, man. I want to help out as much as possible. So yeah, the CarterVissFoundation.org. Check it out.
We want to do whatever we can, man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I think we have the reach to kind of help get your message out. We'll help boost your following on that. And yeah, man, when your book comes out when?
It's going to be the end of 2024,
Okay.
November, December.
So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. And guys, I thank you so much for letting me
Thank
join you guys
Aaron.
yesterday
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
coming
Yeah.
on.
Glad we could
Your
share
story's
your story.
incredible. And me, and I know everybody in this room right now admires the heck out of you being able to come up and do this. So
Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, had a great time sharing my story with you.
cool.
For sure.